I would. Awesome. So great to see you guys. We are going to dive into this webinar tonight. Now, again, the intention of this webinar is to give you a very powerful tool to track goals and reflect on them. The intention behind tracking goals and reflecting on them is that you can get better results. So ultimately what we're saying is this is going to help you get better results for 2023. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain the first part, which is goal setting. I'll stop, see if anybody has any questions. If you guys have any thoughts or feedback or any tools that you've used, please share them with the group at that time, because I think we can learn from everybody in here. After we do that, we'll get into the second half, which is the reflection part. And that is, how do I actually measure these metrics so that I know what I'm going on the next year? Okay. Now, again, what you'll learn is that when you do one of these, it becomes very easy to do this over and over again. In fact, this will actually lead to the next book. So this is a simple system. It works wonders. Highly recommend you guys leverage this. We ready? All right, real quick,
Yes.
would love to do. I just want to hear from you guys before we dive into this. What is just one of your favorite goal setting techniques right now? We don't have to be super in depth, right? You can just say, I like to write it down. I like to journal, whatever it is, right? So Meg, I'll start with you. What is one of your favorite goal setting techniques?
I'm a list maker.
List maker. Love it. Huge, huge. I do this all the time, by the way. Literally have one right here next to me right now. So I love lists as well. These are things that are super powerful. Highly recommend. Have you guys ever heard of Ty Lopez? Highly recommend looking him up as well. If you are a reader, Ty Lopez, actually, him and Dean Graziosi created this really cool format where you can join a club, and instead of reading the whole book cover to cover, he gives you a breakdown. It's kind of like Spark Notes, but for professionals, not for cheating on class, right? So I would look him up, but Ty Lopez, every single morning before he starts his day, he's got a little chair that he has directly next to his shower. And as the shower is heating up, he simply spends 10, 30 seconds to list out his goals or things that need to get done for the day. He does this every day. Very simple rubric, but it works. Okay. So I love that, Meg. Thank you for sharing. Chris Shiv, what about you, my man? What is a goal setting technique that you like to use?
Well, I've only started now. I will be doing this tomorrow because, anyways, my one of my teachers has the other day in class, she mentioned that we need that she recommends we make goals for one month, 1 year, 3 years, and 10 years.
Beautiful.
So I'm due to do that tomorrow, day after. Otherwise, I'm not someone who has much experience in goal setting. I use Google Tasks to manage my daily tasks, but that's all. So I'm new to this, looking
Awesome.
forward to it.
Yeah, man. I appreciate the honesty. By the way, are you doing real estate right now?
No, I'm not.
Okay, we'll talk about that separately. But yeah,
Yeah,
I love that
sure.
breakdown. By the way, we're only focusing on 2023 today, but like Krishev just said, I also am a firm believer that you go 10 years out. Personally, I never set goals beyond 15 years. I think there are things you can strive for beyond that, like big picture. But in terms of like specific measurable goals beyond 20 years, that's just way too much time. So, unless you're talking about like compound interest and you can actually measure that, it's just really difficult to go beyond that. So for today, we're just talking about 1 year in your scenario, Krishev. I do recommend that we do this for a 10-year projection, and then this book would break down the year for you. Brendan, if you have the opportunity, and you can just shoot this in the chat, that's perfectly fine. But how do you like setting your goals? And before you answer this, Brennan does something really cool. So I don't know if you're still doing this, B, but Brennan will go on to Facebook every day and share something, or three things I should say, that he's grateful for. And I think that that's like a super powerful mental trick, especially in the beginning of the day. That's a little different than goal setting, but it's kind of in the same line. So anyway, B, I would love to hear what your goal setting techniques are or what you really like. That's one of my favorites. All right. So I'll come back to you, man. I'll come back to you. All right. So let's go ahead and dive into this. Now, some of these things are going to be a little robust. For sake of time, I might be going a little fast. So if you don't capture it, please just stop, raise your hand. I'll stop and I'll recite what we just said. Okay. Now, if you do not have your book in front of you right now, if I'm you, I'm literally just writing all of these notes on a blank sheet of paper. And then once you get your book, transfer that over to your book. If you have your book right now, then you're going to want to note all of this stuff down in your book as we go through. Okay. So again, the first half of the book is where we're starting right now. This is specifically on goal setting. Everybody good? Okay, cool. So let's dive into this. Now, the first thing that I recommend you do as soon as you open your book, you want to have a date on here. So you're going to want to jot the date. You're going to want to write whatever it is. Now, this one, again, for me is June 27th, 2013. But, okay, cool, Krishev. I love it. This is from 2013, but again, having these over a lifetime adds up. So you want to put the date, put it in your book. And again, this is June because I was in college at the time, or just getting out of college. And so I was starting a job, and that's just the timeline where I started it. That's when I started doing this book at that time. So you got your date. The next thing you want to do, write your intention behind this. So I'm just going to read this one to you. This book is intended to track, list, set, aspire, and acquire different dreams throughout life. Simple, straight to the point, but it gives you clarity. And for me, every time I open this book, I read that first sentence. It gets me fired up. I'm like, oh, cool. This is my dream book. Like I want to protect this. So the first part is, yes, you put the date. The next part is you want to put the intention behind it. Okay. So step number 1 is date. Step number 2 is the intention. Okay. So date, then intention. Now, I'm going to start going through a series of questions. The goal section is split into 3 parts. Part number 1, these are all questions and tools. Correct, Krishiv. Intention of the book, exactly. So these are all questions and tools to shift your state of mind. The reason that we do this is because when you go through and read these things, it's going to get you in the right state of mind. A quick example here, happiness is a state of mind. Happiness is a choice, okay? So I'm just running through a series of these questions. Now, you're going to want to jot these any way you want. I put these particular questions on one page and then just answer it directly under. But do it any way that's good for you. You got a whole book, so you can space it out as much as you want. What would I do if? What would I do if? And that's what I write there on the very top of the page, right? What would I do if? What would I do if I had no limitations? What would I do if I had no limitations? What would I do if I had only 5 years to live? What would I do if I only had 5 years to live? What would I do if I had unlimited resources? What would I do if I had unlimited resources? What would I do if I knew I could not fail? If I knew I couldn't fail, what would I do? Everybody good so far? Not necessarily in sections, Krishiv. Again, so when I go through this book, it's going to look something like this, right? I open the book up. I've got my date in there, and then I put the intention. So technically this is like the first page, right? Like this is just a blank page. That's the date. I put my intention statement. And then the next one is, these are the series of questions. And I like this at the beginning because it helps to get you in the right state of mind. We're not actually talking about goals at this point, right? What we're actually doing is we're getting in the right state of mind so that we can dissect and plan our goals. So is there a section? Yeah, but it's really just two parts. It's the front part of the book and the back part of the book. Those are the sections, right? Outside of that, organize it any way you want. Front side of the book, goal setting. Back side of the book, reflection. So we're still in the questions, right? So what would I do if, and we got through those four. So what would I do if I had no limitations, if I had only 5 years to live, if I had unlimited resources, and if I knew I could not fail? Now you're going to want to give yourself some pages in between these, right? Because you're going to be taking notes in between this stuff. So I'd give myself a page or two. And here's another one. And some of us don't ever think about this question. What are my gifts? What are my gifts? And I think this is a really cool question to contemplate because when we think about creating fulfillment in our life, it really comes down to two things. What are my gifts and how can I use them to change the lives of others? And if you marry those two things together, that creates your fulfillment, right? Megan loves dogs. She's in the process of opening a dog park or dog bar, right? So that is fusing what your gifts are and how you can serve other people and bringing that together to create your fulfillment. So again, I just want to emphasize, spend a little time to think about these questions. What are my gifts? Next question. I really love this one. What people make me feel special? Such a simple question, but we can think about the alternative to this. The alternative to this is the energy drainers, right? Or energy vampires. So you want to think about what people make you feel special. Next question. What is a moment of personal triumph? What is a moment of personal triumph? And you know, the cool part about this is when you do this over years and you look back at these, it's just eye-opening. Like I'm looking at this statement right here, and this is from 9 years ago. 9 years ago. 55% production in the biggest week with a 4-person team and a 43-person office. Now I can tell you all the details. I know exactly what this memory is, but just seeing something like that before you set goals, I mean, it opens the horizon, right? Because we're talking about unlimited resources, not failing, having only 5 years to live. Like these questions shift your state. So again, what are my gifts? And this should be a different page or pages. What are my gifts? What people make me feel special? And what is a moment of personal triumph? Everybody with me still? All right, cool. The next part. And so again, I guess to more directly answer you, Krishiv, if you look at goals as being the first section, there are technically 3 sections in that. Okay. And that would be the questions, which is where we are right now. And this is to help you shift your state, right? The other part is the lifestyle goals, which we're about to get into next, and then material goals. These are 3 different parts of goal setting. Okay. A lot of people where they get mixed up is they only set material goals. For example, I want to buy this house. I want to buy this car. I want to have these things. The problem is that doesn't lead to fulfillment. Okay. Yes. Yes. So after what are my gifts? It is what people make me feel special. What I was saying there is that if you want to create fulfillment in your life, if you are not feeling full and harmonious and joyful and grateful, that means you're lacking something. If you're lacking something, the best way that you can discover that or find that is to serve other people. So when we think about what our gifts are and we think about our purpose in life, it is to say, can I leverage the gifts I have to serve other people? And you marry those two things together, that's going to create your fulfillment and drive to your purpose. And give yourself a whole nother page here. This one is the law of least effort. the law of least effort. So when you think about this, what we're simply saying is, what work would I do for free? Because I'll tell you right now, 3 years ago when I was doing my journaling and I was writing all this out, I wrote that I would do coaching for free because I was that passionate about it. Guess what? A year after I wrote that, I was getting paid to coach. So again, there's the subconscious trick that goes into doing all of this. And then the next part of law of least effort is, what can I do to help the people around me? Now, this one's really interesting because depending on your situation, this could be a lot of things. For example, I think about Brendan and I think about your two boys. And when you think about this question, what can I do to help the people around me? This doesn't always need to be work related, right? We're talking about our life, not just business or work. So, for Brendan, he might say, hey, I could spend more time with my boys. That's something that I could do, law of least effort. So those are the two good questions there. Moving to the next page. Now, some of these things are going to kind of border material goals in a way, but I want you to start thinking about the lifestyle. So what places would you go? What places would you go? Now, by the way, I would actually sit down and write all of this out, and spend an intentional day. So for me, on December 29th, you can't reach me. My phone's off, computer's off, everything's off. And I sit down for 3 or more hours and do an entire goal setting session for 2023. You should do something similar. You should sit down with all of these questions, all this information, all this organization, and run through it. I'm going to share this just because I think some of you get a kick out of this, but places to go: Alaska, Brunswick, Georgia, Australia, Brazil, Spain, Hawaii, Ireland, Guitar Factory. Crazy thing is, out of this entire list, only 2 of these I didn't hit. And that's why this is a really cool confidence builder, because when you do this over time, you can look back at a hard time in your life and see where you are now. And that gives you tremendous confidence to move forward. So places you would go. Okay. And we're almost done with this first part in goal setting. Okay. So this one is for people who are just starting out on this. Okay. So Krishiv, this is going to be gold for you. All right. 5 questions, and then that's it. But I think this is good for everybody. Question number 1. What is my dream? What is my dream? Right now, we're talking about goals, but I think immediately, who do we think about? Martin Luther King Jr., right? I have a dream that one day all people will be able to walk this earth free and in harmony, right? That's a dream. Has nothing to do with finances. That's a mission. So what is my dream? Number 2, what is my starting point? What is my starting point? What is my starting point? And that's really important, because here's the thing. If you say, again, back to the coaching example, if I said my dream is to be a full-time coach, and I said that 3 years ago, my starting point then would have been what? Do I have a certification? Do I have a license? What do I have to work with? Right. And you want to take your starting point and move forward based on that. So number 1, what is my dream? Number 2, what is my starting point? Number 3, strengths and weaknesses. Write down a list of your strengths and weaknesses. Now, of course, you're going to want to either give yourself a page for each of these questions or give yourself a lot of space to write this out. But the strengths and weaknesses is really interesting. And I've heard a lot of different thought processes or ideologies on this, but I really like what Gary Vee said. He said that too many people focus so much energy and effort on their weaknesses, when really what you should be doing is doubling down on your strengths. When we look at America, for example, and capitalism as a whole, whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, capitalism is leveraging other people. A really good example of this, let's think of somebody like Steve Jobs, for example. He was brilliant when it came to marketing. Could he personally sit and build a computer? No, but he was the face of a computer company. So again, strengths and weaknesses state that he doubled down on his strengths to help the business and hired the right people on his weaknesses, right? So you get really good at what you're really good at. Number 4, your positive and negative habits. Now, often people never sit down and think about this stuff. So this is going to be eye-opening, just that question alone. Like, what habits serve you? What habits don't serve you? What are the positive ones? What are the negative ones? So number 1, what is my dream? Number 2, what is my starting point? Number 3, strengths and weaknesses. Number 4, positive and negative habits. The 5th and final part, what habits would I need to practice to reach my full potential? What habits would I need to practice to reach my full potential? And this one usually is like a punch straight to the gut. You're like, damn, I know I should be working out more. I know I should be eating differently. I know I should be reading or listening to audio. All these things that we should do. What are the habits you need to practice to reach your full potential? Okay. So I wanted to share this quote with you. I wrote this down for you guys. I absolutely love this quote. The greatest value of my dream will not be what I get from it. It will be who I become by pursuing it. In the end, it is not our dreams that we conquer. It is ourselves. That always hits me because, again, when we talk about going through the goal setting process, it doesn't really matter when you hit it. It's about who you become to get it, right? Here's another one, and then I'll move on. Successful people do what is right, no matter how they feel. And by doing right, they make themselves feel good. And that's a golden truth. I use this gym example all the time. It's like every morning I wake up, I could probably count on one hand how many times in my entire life I woke up and was like, hell yeah, I'm going to the gym this morning, right? But you got to realize that by going and doing the act, it's going to make you feel a certain way. And that's more powerful than sitting in your pity, self-wallow, and depression versus going out and doing it, right? All right. And then the last part that I wanted to share with you guys, and we're going to stop this section, I'll open it up to the group, is once you go through all of these questions and you look at these, I think it's really powerful to ask yourself, how can I break some of this down to daily tasks? For example, maybe you plan each day and you only spend 2 to 5 minutes on your planning per day. You do the exercise, you do the reading, you do lead gen and appointment setting, you do your personal development, all of these things. But what does that look like on a daily basis at your best? And we're leading to that in more detail. Real quick, before I get to the next part, I'm curious if you guys have any questions.
Can you repeat the part you just said?
Yes. So oops, I'm gonna find it. There's too many notes here. I was a little bit ahead of myself there, but basically what I was saying is we're doing this goal book for a year, right? And so what you'll want to do is once you complete the book for a year, yeah, of course, Krishev. Once you plan this out for a year, what you'll want to do is break this down. And so, by the way, I'm going to gift you guys a really cool little exercise, completely free. Normally you charge for it, but it's going to help you on this. Okay. We lost one and gained a new one. All right. So, so again, you'll want to do that reverse engineer part. Okay. Any other questions real quick? No, we're good. Okay. Awesome. John, good to see you, my man.
Hey, Keegan, how are you?
Doing well, doing well. By the way, I'm recording this, so anything that you missed, I'm going to shoot that recording to you after this, and you can get caught up there. We're a little behind on time, so I'm going to keep crushing through this, but just to catch you up real quick, what we're doing right now, we're taking a book and we're dividing it into two parts. The first half, goal setting for this year specifically, 2023. The second half, reflection. Okay. So what we've debriefed on the first half, you're a stud on all this stuff, so I don't think you're gonna have any trouble. But basically, it's mind shift questions, right? So what I really like to do is the first page, I'll put the date of the book. And I've been doing this for over a decade, so I have hundreds of these things. You put the date on the very beginning. The next page, really like to put the intentionality behind this book, and then you'll go through periodically and see all these questions. So again, I'll shoot that over to you. Again, first half, goal setting. We did the first section. Section number 2, this is going to be your lifestyle goals. So what we addressed earlier is that we don't want to hyper focus on material. I want to share that quote real quick because I think, John, you're going to get a kick out of this. But the greatest value of my dream will not be what I get from it. It will be who I become by pursuing it. In the end, it is not our dreams that we conquer. It is ourselves. I love that. All right. So next, we're going to talk about the lifestyle goals. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. What I'd really like to do with everybody is just run through what the lifestyle goals are. And then on your own time, I'm going to challenge you to write what these would look like over the next year. Okay. So everybody's with us still? We're good? Okay, cool. So lifestyle goals. Here are the categories. We've got health, personal development, recreation, spirituality, career, living environment, money, that was, what was that? 7? Did I just say 7?
6.
Yeah, that was.
Oh no, it was 7. Sorry.
I forget which ones I already said, so I know I'm missing one though. All right, I'm just gonna run through them all again real quick because we might need them. All right, so career, money. I know which one I missed. So career, money, family and relationships. I box those together. Some people don't like that, but that's totally up to you. If you want to keep them separate, keep them separate. Career, money, family and relationships, personal development, living environment, spirituality, health, and recreation. Do you guys need me to say any of those again? Did you get them all? Awesome. So again, what we're doing here is we want to project the lifestyle that we want to live in this category over the next year. Okay. I'll give you an example really quickly, just to dial this down. So if I were to say personal development, I would want to use the SMART acronym and then write my goals for the next year for personal development. Does anybody know the SMART acronym on here? Okay, cool. So Krishev, I can't see you, so I'm just going to say it again real quick. So specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time frame. Okay. So what I'm saying is, let me give you an example. If I were to say, let's take living environment. Okay. This is the one I use all the time. I want to buy a house in Hawaii. Sounds pretty cool, right? Not a SMART goal. There's no specificity. There's no time, nothing to it. So it's very difficult to attain. Let me give you the proper example when you're writing your lifestyle goals over the next year. It would sound something like this under living environment. By December 29th of 2023, I am going to buy a 2-story beachfront villa all glass wall on the east coast of Maui, Hawaii. I'm going to buy this strictly through speaking engagements and the money I accrue through this. Way more attainable, right? Because it's kind of like this. If we all put blindfolds on and we all had bow and arrows and we tried to hit the target, but we couldn't see it, how the heck are you going to hit it? You got to know what it looks like. You have to have clear intention and specificity. So again, I recommend that you give yourself 1 to 2 pages on each of these lifestyle categories. Use the SMART acronym and break down what you want your lifestyle to look like over the next year in each category. Does that make sense? Awesome. Awesome. All right. So that's section 2. Chris Shiv, you good, buddy? Awesome. Okay, cool.
Yes, I'm making notes.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. So now we're going to shift to the third and final part of goal setting. Okay. Now, again, this is all in the first half of your book. So these are the material goals. Now, the first part, we said this was to shift your state of mind, asking yourself the right questions, breaking all of that down. Part number 2 is, what is the lifestyle I want to be living a year from today? Right? What does that look like at the end of 2023? Part 3, material goals. This is to say, we want to get ourselves in the right state of mind. We want to plan the lifestyle. And then once we hit these lifestyle accolades, we can then reward ourselves with a material goal. So you shouldn't just give yourself the material goal. You should earn it, right? And so once you've earned it, you reward yourself with this goal. Okay. So here's some of the ones that I really like to jot down. Now, by the way, you guys may have some really good additions to this. So if you do, once I get through these questions, would love to hear from you guys. Number 1, dream house or houses, right? Write everything down here. I'm talking, is this a stone front? Does it have the siding on it? Is it a brick rancher? Like, get super specific. Where is it? Chris Shiv?
Keeks, just a quick question. Are we now moving on to the reflection, or
Not
is it
yet.
still in goal setting?
Yes, sir. Yeah, this is the last part of goal setting.
Okay.
Yep. So again, when we talk about the dream house, you want to have that specificity. How much land is it on? Is it near water? Is it near mountains? Is it in a valley? What is the driveway like? What are the houses around you? Or maybe there are no houses around you. Is there a barn? Add all of these things. Maybe you're buying a house for your parents. It's something you always want to do. Buy a house for mom. Write down all the details there. Okay. Next part. And again, there's no specific order on this. You want to be able to leverage these, and this is going to vary over your lifetime. So again, you want to use this metric and rubric because over time, you'll hit these accolades at some point. Another one is physique. So having clear specificity on the physique. Again, you can't just simply say, I want to be in good shape. What the hell does that mean? Right? You've got to narrow it down. So for you, does good shape mean that you are losing weight? Does it mean you have better physique? Does it mean you're stronger? What does that look like? So what I like to do is put the age, current weight, whatever the goals are, whether that's a goal on running a mile, running a marathon, whether it's your weight lifting goal. Maybe you want to have a bench max. You want to hit 400, like whatever it is, write all this stuff down and then put a date behind it. You can't just say, hey, I want to be able to bench 500 pounds. Awesome. When? Right? And then you use compound growth to get to that point. So physique, and that's not really a material goal per se, but there might be some material things that lead to that. Dream cars. Write out your dream cars. And again, we talked about some of these questions at the beginning. Unlimited resources, 5 years to live. If I knew I couldn't fail, if I had no limitations. This is the mind state you want to be in when you're answering these questions. At your absolute best, what do your dream cars look like? Don't sit here and tell me, oh, I want a Mini Cooper. Put 10 cars on there. Why not? Right? Dream big, because if you don't hit the stars, you're going to land on the moon. So again, you want to have specificity. You can't just say, hey, I want an M5. No, Say, hey, I want a 2024 black M5 with black leather interior, 20-inch rims, sound system. Like, you got to add all the details. Okay. I'm going to buy it from Hendricks Automotive there in Charlotte. Add everything to it. Here's another one. And I really love this one. This one's, again, not necessarily material, but what character traits do you want to be known for the new people you meet? So in other words, if you go through the next year and we have this conversation a year from today, what type of character traits would you want new people to share about you? Hey, Megan's really considerate. You definitely want to jump on a call with her. She's just awesome, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it definitely parallels Spirit, Krishiv, when we talk about character traits. It's also about, let me explain it to you like this. If you are ever unsure about your character traits, this is one of the coolest exercises a coach shared with me. If you're ever unsure about your character traits, one of the best things you can do is go to the top 5 people you spend most of your time with, look at their character traits, and then ask them one trait that they would use to describe you. And you'll find out real quick, am I around the right people? And what kind of character traits am I actually showing or conveying to the world? So another way to put this, by the way, is what are the values that I really want to honor over the next year? Okay. You want to be relaxed? Do you want to be committed, diverse, succinct? Like there's a bunch of stuff that can go into this. And then piggybacking off of this, what skills do you want to develop? Like, again, if you had unlimited resources, what skills would you develop between now and the next year? Would you speak German? Would you speak Spanish? What would you do? You had all the time, all the resources in the world. What skills would you develop? Okay, I'm going to have to start wrapping this up. We're going to have to shift to the reflection in a second here. Another thing is just what blatant material items are you looking for? Is it a Fender Strat? Is it a 3-piece suit? What is it? What material items that are just random or benign do you want to buy? Maybe I know John was telling me the other day he was looking at this 600-inch TV he's been raving about. So getting a 600-inch TV, right? Take up the whole house. Let's go. And then you can throw all kinds of other stuff in this. Do you want to get a boat? Maybe you want to get a pilot license. Like what are some of the things and accolades that you want to add over the next year? Maybe you build a course, right? Everybody in here probably loves music. Put something down about music. Even if you don't play an instrument, maybe you want to go to a concert, jot all these things out. I've got like just a couple more for you and then we're done. What books would you write? What books would you write over the next year? If you had unlimited time, unlimited resources, what would you write about? Who would that impact? What businesses would you start? Your absolute best. What businesses would you start?
Did you say what books would I write or
Correct.
would I read?
Both. You do both of them.
Okay.
Because when I was looking at this, by the way, and again, this is back from 2013. When I was looking at this, one of the goals was to read 1 book a month. And I'm like, man, if I read 1 book a month now, I feel like I'd be doing a disservice to myself. Like it's got to be like 2, 3, 4 a month now. So again, you want to track all this because as you grow and progress, you're going to be able to go back and refer to these goals. So what books would you write and how many books would you read? Any other questions, thoughts, comments, feedback, suggestions, anything you guys have? Awesome. Now, John, by the way, I know you've been doing this for a long time, man. So if you have any feedback or thoughts or input, would love to hear it. Matt, good to see you, man.
Good to see you, Keegan.
The only thing I would add, Keegan, is just one little tweak at the end. You said by December 29th of 2023, whatever the subject is, I will have. Mm-hmm. Just changing it to I do have.
I love
because
that.
Because it's been my experience that if you change it to I do have, as if it's already happened, you have a much more success of attaining it.
Thank you for sharing that, man. And you're spot on. I 100% agree. My only thought on this is it's going to depend on where you are right now. For example, I often in my line of work, I hear a lot of people that battle imposter syndrome, right? It's like we set these amazing goals, and if we haven't yet achieved it, sometimes we feel like an imposter when we're talking to other people about it. So my only feedback on this is the words we use are extremely powerful. You know, I will, or I do, or I have. I like all of those because it gives you that intentionality, right? My feedback is if you're at the beginning stage and you're facing imposter syndrome, you just need to surround yourself with the right type of people, and that will help mitigate that, right? So if you have a mentor or a leader or somebody that's ahead of you, when you go to share these things, even if you don't yet have it and you're saying statements like, I do have this, then having that mentor, somebody in your circle, is going to help reignite that confidence and pull you towards that goal when you're facing imposter syndrome. So yeah, John, spot on, man. Thank you so much for sharing that. I totally agree with you. My only feedback again is depending on where you're starting, make sure you're surrounded by the right people.
Absolutely.
Awesome, guys. Awesome. So, all right. So, Matt, just to catch you up to speed real quick, I am recording all of this. I will send it to you. We just closed out the first half. So what we're doing right now is we're taking a book. And if you don't have a book right now to write all this in, just take notes on a sheet of paper or something. But basically what we do is we divide the book in half. Okay. The first half is all goal setting, and you'll see the breakdown of all of this when I send that recording to you. Okay. So that's going to break everything down into 3 parts. 1, helping you to shift your state before you talk about goals. 2, setting lifestyle goals. And 3, talking about material goals to leverage as rewards once you hit these goals. Okay. So that's the first part. Are we all good?
Yep.
Awesome.
Can I use question for you, Keegan? Can I use an iPad, or does it have to be like a physical book?
So here's my feedback, man. Everybody's different. So if you're particular to one way, do what's good for you. Do what works for you. I personally recommend the book, and specifically one of this size, because I know for me, I travel a lot for work. And so if I have something small and concise like this, I can easily throw it into a backpack. I can even fit this in my pocket. So, you know, when you're driving or when you're sitting around waiting or whatever is going on, maybe you're in a seminar or something, and you have these amazing light bulb ideas go off or new goals that you hear, you want this to be accessible so you can add them to your book. So if you somebody like you, Matt, where you're around tech all the time, yeah, of course. If you've got an iPad and that's easy for you, just use the iPad.
Well, yeah, I mean, the reason why I said that, because like Apple Notes goes with me no matter where I go. So for example, like I can do this, but if I use Apple Notes, and I'm always going to have it on me, I can always make an on-the-fly change, and then accommodate what you're trying to accomplish here. So.
Exactly. Spot on. So great question, by the way. Yeah, 100%. Use whatever's good for you. Okay. In my experience, I use this just because I can break these into years. And so that allows me to do my reflection process, which again, I do on December 29th. That allows me to stop and look at everything from the last year. Right. And then it just helps me to divide it. But that's not everybody. There's a question. What if there are no people? So that is in reference to
I actually, to the 5 people he was referencing. I messaged him directly.
Yes.
That's what you're here for. That's what this group is about, right? That's what having mentors and things like this is all about. Is you build that network and you find those people. It's not about you find those people. It's not about not having it. It's about finding it.
that's it.
There's a big difference between not having something and finding it.
Yeah, and a really good quote on this is I love this from Tony Robbins. It's not that you lack resources, it's that you lack resourcefulness. You know, we're in information overload era right now. You can find out anything online. Ask Matt. You can ask him anything. He'll tell you in 5 seconds, you know?
I guess. Well, keep in mind that we have more information at our disposal than any other time in human history.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, we're like right at the end. So I really need to jump into this reflection real quick. Okay. So, so we talked about the first half. Now, the second half on reflection, I've done a couple webinars on this. I am going to crush through this just because of time. If you have questions, please reach out. I have multiple documents for this that will be eye-opening and super helpful. Matt also does a lot of reflection. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to him as well. And John's a stud on this stuff too. So real quick, I want to give you a 4-part framework for reflection. Okay. So again, this is more for people that have never done this before. All right. So I'm intentionally dumbing this down because some of you may already use this. I'm not trying to offend you. I just want to make this as elementary as possible because some people may have never done this before. So the 4-part is very simple. This is an equation you can use for reflection. Number 1 is we call this setting. When we talk about setting, all I'm saying here is set aside a time, a place, an environment where you can healthfully reflect. Okay. So setting is time, place, environment where you can reflect on past efforts. Okay. So an example really quickly, I like to do this. I've got this little meditation area that I go to. I can calm my mind, and that's where I do a lot of the reflection. But you want to have clarity on this. It might be different places. You might be traveling. Number 2 on the equation for reflection, intention. You must have a clearly defined intention for the time you're going to spend reflecting. Okay. For example, there are 3 questions that I really love behind any situation. Question number 1, what can I learn from this? What can I learn from this? Question number 2, what is the opportunity here? And number 3, how can I use this to impact others? So when we talk about intention, we want to be clearly defined on why we are spending this time. Am I learning? Am I finding an opportunity? Or am I using this to serve others? For instance, you might be seeking additional opportunities in your business. Maybe you want to find more speaking engagements. So you would go back to the past speaking engagement. You've done your setting. You've got your time, place, and environment. The intention is I want to break down the efforts, action items, etc. from the speaking engagement. How can I use this to maximize in the future? Number 3, analysis. Once we're clear on the intention behind the reflection, we can analyze our efforts. Now, of course, we want to do this by detaching emotionally and looking at this logically. So you can think about this in 2 parts to help you break this down logically. There's 2 parts here. What went really well? What do I want to get more of? What went really well? What needs to be improved? What didn't go well? What needs to be improved? Okay. So we've got our setting. We picked our day, time, and place. We've got the clear intention behind what we're doing. We're analyzing the results from this event. Now we're going to analyze that data. What went really well? What do we need to improve? And then the 4th and final thing is we need to create action. We need to create action. So this allows us to find areas for improvement within the past approach. Okay. So this is going to help us. So again, when we find that actionable item, let's use the speaking as an example. Okay. So if we are talking about the speaking and we didn't get any clients from our speaking engagement, the action would be, we need to create more clients from speaking in the future. Okay. Hold on. There's a question real quick. So yeah, Krishiv. So those are 3 questions. So let me actually, give me 1 second. I've got a document on this. Let me pull this up real quick. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah. Okay, cool. So this is what we're talking about right here, Krishiv. Okay. So number 1 is setting. Intentional time, place, environment. Okay. And this might take time, by the way. You might have to figure out what's the most effective place for you. Number 2, having the clear intention behind it. Right. So what is the intention for me spending my time on this? And again, and I can send this to you directly, Krishiv, by the way. So for example, you may want to learn from your efforts. Maybe you didn't get the right results. Maybe it was a dating situation and you ended and you feel like you're heartbroken. And you're like, man, I don't ever want that to happen again. So the intention would be to mitigate getting your heart broken. Okay, awesome. Let me learn from it. Number 3, analysis. So again, the easiest way to break down the analysis here is to decide what went really well, what do we want more of, and what needs to be improved. And then so I actually was just doing this off the cusp. So these 3 questions I think I shared before I got to this point. But those 3 questions that you're referring to, Krishiv, are what can I learn from this? What is the opportunity here? How can I use this to impact other people? Okay. And look, man, I know that you're overseas and it's super late right now. It's almost midnight there. So I appreciate you being here. I know you're probably tired. I can send any of this stuff to you. So if you have any additional questions, just reach out to me, man. I got you. Okay. All right. So any other questions, thoughts, or feedback on that part right there? We're good. Okay. So, all right. So here's, oh man, I had another document I was going to share with you guys, and I think I exited out by accident. That's that one. All right. So here's, okay, cool. All right. I'm going to share this with you guys really quickly as well. And again, I'd be more than happy to send this to you guys. So if you want to look at this in more depth, just let me know. Simple Word doc. I'll shoot it over to you. All right. So this is the last part, and then we're going to close out. So this is the last part of reflection. Okay. So this is deeply rooted. This is not stuff that I've created. I can't take credit for it. This is other geniuses that have broken this stuff down. So when you're talking about reflection, and again, I know John, I know Matt, I know you guys have done this a ton. Megan, Krishiv, I'm not sure if you have. So this is a really good opportunity, especially for other people listening in, because I don't know where everybody is. You got to find the best style for you. And this might take time. You're not just going to do this one time and be a pro at this. Okay. It's going to take effort. Now, this comes back to what we talked about before. What time and place is most conducive to your reflection? Do you reflect best on an introverted or extroverted approach? Now, I'm gonna be real clear on this one. Sometimes we choose the one that doesn't best serve us based on a limiting belief. Let me give you a perfect example. Krishiv and I met over a year ago through a community online, which is near and dear to my heart because I have battled a speech impediment my entire life. Okay. With the speech impediment, I often would take an introverted approach because I just didn't want to talk to other people, but that didn't actually serve me the best. An introverted approach would be writing it down, journaling it, drawing it out, any of those things. An extroverted approach would be speaking it out with other people. Some people need both. Some only use one. It's different for everybody. You got to test it and find out. Okay. So how do you reflect best? Introverted, extroverted, both. How do you intentionally build reflection into your life? Matt does this in the morning. When is a good time for you? Do you do this daily? Do you do it weekly? Do you do it monthly? Completely up to you. Okay.
Keegan, let me clarify something. It's not just the morning, it's really any time. The aspect that I'll share with everybody here is that if you have a pivotal moment that is affecting your life traversely, I haven't said that word forever. How's that for SAT? Then you have to sit there and, basically have like an MC Hammer moment where it's stopped and it's hammer time, and you say, okay, this is significant. I need to analyze this. And so you stop what you're doing, almost kind of like a deer in the headlights. You say, okay, what is the takeaway from this? This is very significant. I just had that prior to coming on this phone call. I spoke with my friend Ryan after 22 years. I had a problem with the person that I'm living in their house said I caused them anxiety. I had to look at that very carefully to say, okay, where could I have caused this, even though it wasn't intentional? And we spent 45 minutes talking about this. So exactly what I talked about reflecting is exactly what I did. And when Keegan started talking about this, this is like Rodrigo and Deja Vu, because I just went through this with my friend Ryan, and now Keegan's talking about this. So the good time is when it's going to be most beneficial to you. Not just the morning, not just a particular time of the day. It's when it's going to suit you the best based on the circumstances that your life has presented to you.
Yeah, and you're 100% spot on, Matt. The thing that you got to realize though is that people are in different stages. So what you're talking about right now takes an increased level of self-awareness that not all people have, okay? So you got to realize that when you go through this process, and again, this document that we're looking at right now is elementary on purpose because I don't know where you're starting, right? So you might be at the point where Matt is, where you have an increased level of self-awareness and you can stop on the cusp because you recognize something's going on and analyze it then. Other people might not realize that this happened days later, weeks later, months later. You know, I still realize that there are things that might have occurred 2 years ago. And I'm like, damn, did I really handle it that way? Like, I know I should have done it way differently. Let me reflect on that. So yes, you're spot on. It doesn't have to be limited to, oh, I do this in the morning, or, oh, I do this at night. You can do it all the time, but that is going to take a level of increased self-awareness.
True, but let me say this as well, Keegan, is that obviously I'm like Paramore and the only exception, but the idea is to start somewhere. So even if you do it once a day, it doesn't matter when it is. The thing is, how important is reflection to you, and it starts somewhere. So that's the most important concept, is that, you know, if Keegan thinks on a more advanced level, which I didn't realize I was at least you have to get the ball rolling somehow. Even if you do it once a week, the point is to start somewhere, just like the personal version of Dorothy following the yellow brick road, not Elton John. At least you start somewhere on that road for yourself.
Yeah, starting is the biggest point. And we can get into a whole debate on this. There are a lot of different psychologies on getting started and all that stuff. But let's close this out, and I'll see if anybody has any questions or feedback, and then we'll wrap up. Okay. So I think that when we talk about the reflection questions, it is these are just good things to really identify the intention. So what is behind this? What is the root? You know, often we'll be in scenarios where there's an exterior motive that's influencing this decision. What is that? Is that a person? Is that a circumstance? Is that an environment? What is it? How could I maximize these efforts or results? What would it take to get to the bottom of this? What is the right thing to do? What do you want? Where are you going? Will this lead you there? This is one of my all-time favorites. I literally had a bracelet made for this, like one of those Livestrong bracelets, which, by the way, we just put a podcast out. Sam and I did. We dive into this. I think it's really fascinating, but I put this on a bracelet. And so every time that I had to write or text or open a door or eat food or anything, I had to sit there and say, does this serve me? And it was a really quick tool to say yes or no. You know, what do you expect here? How are unspoken expectations influencing the situation? This happens all the time, by the way. All right, so those are different questions you can ask yourself when you're reflecting on the data from your goals throughout the year. Next part is, what did you learn? So here's the thing. I really love the, oh my gosh, I'm losing his name right now. I can picture his face, but there's a quote, I never lose, I either win or I learn. Nelson Mandela, that's it. I never lose, I either win or I learn. And so when we go through any scenario, you know, you can always learn. Okay. So personally, professionally, whatever it is. And these are a couple good questions to help you get to the bottom of that. So how did this change occur? What are the choices or circumstances that led to this? How can this be replicated, etc.? Okay. Any questions or thoughts on that part or in general? Awesome. So let's do a real quick recap and then we'll close out. Okay. Absolutely. So the real quick recap is we broke our book into 2 sections. Okay. This is going to be for a year. As we discussed earlier, this should not be your only goal setting. You should go beyond a year for goal setting, but this is a really good way to organize the next year. Okay. The first half of the book is going to be the goals. We broke this into 3 sections. Number 1, shifting your state of mind. Number 2, lifestyle goals. And that's really the gold of the goal setting part, the lifestyle goals. Number 3, the material goals that we can leverage as rewards once we achieve the lifestyle goals. That's part number 1. Part number 2, reflecting on that data. Now, of course, you have to track it. You have to measure it. That's where you use the second part of the book to go through. For example, if I go in and I say, hey, one of my goals is to have 10 new clients in Q1. Well, I need to know what efforts I am using. I'll probably go to John and say, hey, John, I need some help marketing. Let's get these 10 clients. I'll analyze that data. I come back at the end of the year and say, did this work or did this not work? Now, by the way, I know you guys heard me say a year. You might do this periodically throughout. I actually recommend that you do that. But the point is, you want to be able to go back and reflect. So you've got the first half for goal setting. You've got the second half for reflection. You should be going on with this. Any questions, comments, concerns here? No? Okay, awesome. So here's my other feedback on this. This book is a simple tool that is going to tremendously help you. You can use things like this for the gym, for business, for personal, anything that's going to help you set goals and track goals. Okay. I highly recommend that you have something at least 10 years out. We talked about this before. Personally, I don't like going beyond 15 years. I think too much can occur in that time frame. It just stifles goals and then you get upset. So 10, 15, good marker. This is for 1 year. This is going to help keep you organized. It's going to help keep you accountable. However, you need to create an accountability system moving forward. You cannot simply rely on yourself to help get you goals, because guess what? There are blind spots that we all have because we are emotionally tied to patterns and habits. Okay. What I'm really saying, guys, is I expect everybody in here, because you guys are top performers, you should be creating goals. Organize them in this book and find an accountability system. By the way, somebody like John, rock star at this. Okay. I'd be more than happy to help people do this, right? Use the resources you have. Krishiv, you talked about this before. What if I don't have those 5 people in my circle right now? What do I do? Reach out to John, reach out to myself, reach out to Matt, reach out to Megan, right? Reach out to people, leverage the people in this group. And guess what? We can open doors for you that you couldn't open yourself. This is true in the networking world. It happens all the time. People open doors for me. I open doors for people. There are just people that we're connected to that the average person, it might take years to get to that person. So again, you need to create an accountability system after this. I do have a community group. Matt and Megan are both a part of it. We are going to start doing more intentional goal setting and reflection in that group. So if you need something like that, a support system, you can all jump in there. Okay. Any other questions, thoughts, snide remarks, feedback?
Yeah, just to clarify, Key and I went over this today. Snide remarks is now called pulling a mat. I allow everybody to use me as a verb when you want to sit there and pull out your snide remarks. So let's throw out that disclaimer there. So
awesome. Anything else, guys?
Thank you very much, Keegan. This is great stuff.
Of course. Thank you guys for joining in. If you guys need anything else, let me know. Chris Shiv, I know you asked for a couple of those documents. I'm going to send those over to you. If anybody else would like those, let me know. Be happy to send them to you. If you have any other additional questions or just want to jump on a quick 15-minute, 30-minute call to dive through this stuff, be happy to. Love you guys. Thank you for your time. Have an incredible night. I'll see you soon.
I take care.